It's exactly 10 minutes to the hour. You're listening to Paris Live PM. Well, as Europe grapples with an existential crisis of sorts, it's also about to hit some significant milestones. That's the anniversary of the European Union's two most important treaties. Tomorrow, February 7, marks 25 years since a plan to integrate Europe's countries into one union was signed in the Dutch city of Maastricht. 6 weeks later, March 25, will mark 60 years since the signing of the Rome Treaty, which created the European Economic Community. Now, to talk about all of this and how Europe might reform itself, we welcome to the studio Yves Bertoncini, who's the director of the Jacques Delors Institute, which is a European think tank based in Paris. And I should also point out that it was founded by the longest-serving EU Commission President, Jacques Delors, who was serving in that role when the Maastricht Treaty was signed. You're very welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Now, essentially, the Maastricht Treaty paved the way for the foundation of today's European Union and the single monetary currency. How did it change Europe?
Well, you're right to say that it created the European Union based on the principle of subsidiarity, meaning a kind of distribution of tasks and powers between the nation states and the EU. And at the EU level, yes, the trademark of the Maastricht Treaty was about really the launch of the monetary union, kind of unbalanced economic and monetary union. And Jacques Delors has pointed out that it was very positive to have a single currency, but that some progresses were needed as well as regard the economic union. But at least 25 years after, what can we see? We have a monetary union. At the Maastricht Treaty, it was for 10 countries because 2 had opted out, the UK and Denmark. So it was 10. They are in. 9 joined, so it's 19 today. This monetary union has gone through a kind of teenager's angst. The financial crisis and all what has happened. But still, you have peoples within these 19 countries still eager to belong to the monetary union, not to come back to the single national currency. And then it's a success probably because people in the monetary union sees the euro as a shield, as a protection vis-à-vis monetary wars and financial speculation. So that was Maastricht basically. And of course, there were 2 other pillars, the so-called pillars on foreign policy, the idea that we need to act more on a solidarity basis, on diplomacy, defense. So
Sure.
There the achievements are rather limited. And the 3rd pillar on police and justice cooperation with some achievements. But now, of course, for these 2 pillars, which don't exist any longer, by the way, but this is technique. But politically, it is time to deliver in today's Europe because, of course, the context is far different from the Maastricht one.
Now, at a summit to mark the 25th anniversary of the drafting of this treaty, the European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker called for a two-speed Europe. That's creating 2 tiers of EU membership. So tell us, what do you make about this idea of 2 different types of membership for EU countries who perhaps don't want to be fully integrated into Europe?
Well, this refers directly to the motto of the European Union, united in diversity, the so-called Federation of Nation States mentioned by Jacques Delors. So with, on the one hand, the need for more unity, and it's true today, and if I'm back to the diplomatic, military aspect, but also the police and justice one, if we look at the threats around us, Putin, the ISIS, the chaos in Syria and Libya, there is the need for more unity. It's even more true when Donald Trump is not protecting us any longer. But on the other hand, this is a diversity. We may have some countries reluctant to go further for natural reasons. Maastricht was also about that because there have been opting outs for the UK and Denmark as regard the monetary union. And Denmark had even obtained other opting outs as regards defense, precisely, or citizenship. So today, Juncker is stating there is a need for a more united Europe because we are stronger together. But if ever some countries, let's say, for example, Poland or Hungary, were reluctant to go forward, well, there's no need to force them, but there's a need to go further using a kind of multi-speed Europe. And by the way, it already exists not only in the monetary field, but also as regards Schengen, because this Schengen's area involve only 22 out of the 28 EU countries.
Now, you mentioned Donald Trump there. Comments that he's made questioning the validity of NATO, sympathising with countries who want to leave the EU, have raised the hackles of EU leaders. Now, for the first time since the end of World War II, when the European coal and steel community was set up, this military and economic cooperation with the United States it's come under threat from this protectionist agenda that Donald Trump is pushing. Just exactly how dangerous is he for Europe?
Well, it's challenging, and you're right to say that it's a tremendous game changer. It's a U-turn. And then it creates the conditions, for example, to have more diplomatic and military common efforts. Because not only the context has changed since Maastricht. I mean, at that time there were no dangers around us. And today there are dangers. It was the end of the Cold War. Today we have Vladimir Putin, the ISIS, chaos in Libya, in Syria, and so on and so forth, in Sahel. So not only the threats are there, but Uncle Sam might not be there any longer. So what Trump is saying, by the way, is not far different from what Obama was saying before. I mean, the message was, hey, you Europeans, you are Europeans, you should wake up, you should spend more for your soldiers, for example. But he's saying this in such a way, is so aggressive. And he's even, yes, not only saying, do it yourself, but also, I might be interested in destroying yourself, destroying your union, that of course you have a sense of unity now, widespread all over Europe, to say, well, let's stand together. United we stand, divided we fall. We are stronger together. And in that sense, Donald Trump is a risk for the European Union, but is also an opportunity for the Europeans.
Now, the European Parliament's chief Brexit negotiator, Guy Verhofstadt, has said that Britain's exit from the EU is actually a golden opportunity for the EU to reform itself. And he says that this could even be more important than a new relationship with the UK. Do you agree?
Well, I would say the golden opportunity is Trump. But let's say that the Brexit is a silver opportunity. It creates something clear, which is the continental Europe. I mean, the UK was an exception, and with all due respect, they wanted to leave, they will leave. And then, true, what's left? Continental Europe, yeah. And of course, there are lessons to be drawn out of the British referendum to reform Europe, for example, as regards the distribution of tasks and powers between the national and the European level. But in Guy Verhofstadt's mind, no doubt that there's a need for more unity in many, many, many fields, because we're only, without the Brits, 6% of the world population, and soon 5%. And in this new world, maybe, yes, there is a sense in this European unity. And maybe, yes, the fact that the Brits don't block, for example, on military aspect, it can help the Europeans to go further. Maybe not all 27, but a significant number of them, with, of course, a strategic partnership with the UK, but with the UK out.
And I suppose the EU is no stranger to reinventing itself. We've had the Amsterdam, Nice and Lisbon treaties, which reformed or amended, rather, the Maastricht Treaty. But unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Thank you very much for joining us today. And that was, of course, Yves Bertoncini, who's the director of the Jacques Delors Institute here in Paris.